St. Kitts and Nevis, a twin-island nation resting quietly in the heart of the Caribbean, stands as the smallest country in the entire Western Hemisphere, yet its beauty and spirit feel impossibly vast. It's the kind of place where nature, history, and human warmth come together in perfect harmony, not because it's trying to impress the world, but because that's simply what it is. The two islands together cover just over 260 square kilometers, a size so modest it could easily disappear on a map. But when you arrive, it feels like the world itself slows down to make room for the peace it offers. Surrounded by turquoise waters that shimmer differently depending on the hour of the day, and shaped by mountains that seem to rise straight out of the ocean, this is the Caribbean that still feels untouched, still feels real. The air smells of salt, mangoes, and earth warmed by the sun, and every breath reminds you that some places don't need size to have power, they just need soul. When you first land in St. Kitts, you're greeted not by chaos or overwhelming crowds but by a calm kind of welcome that feels almost like exhaling after a long flight. The Robert L. Bradshaw International Airport sits just minutes from the capital city of Basseterre, a colorful and compact town that has been the beating heart of the nation for centuries. Basseterre is a mix of colonial architecture and Caribbean ease, where pastel-painted buildings lean against each other like old friends, and the clock tower at the circus stands proudly as if time itself has chosen to move slower here. You can walk from one end of the city to another in under 20 minutes, but in that short journey, you pass through layers of history, from British colonial remains to modern shops where locals laugh over fresh sugarcane juice. The city doesn't scream wealth or extravagance, yet it feels rich in something far more valuable: identity. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis carry themselves with a confidence that comes from knowing who they are. Around 55,000 citizens share this paradise, and though small in number, they speak with the pride of a nation that once stood under colonial rule and now stands free. In 1983, St. Kitts and Nevis gained its independence from Britain, making it one of the youngest nations in the Caribbean. Yet in just a few decades, it has built one of the strongest passports in the region, granting visa-free access to over 150 countries, a quiet reminder that even small nations can open big doors. Walk through Basseterre's Independence Square, once a site of slave auctions, and now a peaceful park filled with palms and children playing, and you'll feel how this country has transformed pain into purpose. Every cobblestone, every smiling face seems to say, "We've come far, and we're still rising." Outside the city, the landscape unfolds into a masterpiece that no painter could ever capture fully. St. Kitts is dominated by Mount Liamuga, a dormant volcano wrapped in a green cloak of tropical rainforest. The climb to its summit is steep, muddy, and filled with the sounds of unseen birds calling from the trees, but those who reach the top are rewarded with a view that feels like standing on the edge of creation itself. From there, you can see the curve of the island, the deep blue ocean stretching endlessly, and on clear days, even the outline of neighboring islands like St. Eustatius and Saba. For locals, the volcano isn't just a mountain, it's a guardian, a silent protector watching over their lives. The trails around it weave through lush vegetation where wild orchids bloom freely, monkeys chatter from the canopy, and the air feels alive with possibility. It's hard not to feel small here, but in the best possible way. Down by the coast, the energy changes completely. The beaches of St. Kitts are not the polished, overcrowded ones you find in heavily commercialized destinations. They're natural, each with its own personality. South Friars Bay offers calm waters and beach bars serving grilled lobster and rum punch, while Cockleshell Beach faces the island of Nevis across a narrow channel, its sand golden and its waters impossibly clear. Frigate Bay, on the other hand, is where locals and visitors mingle as the sun sets, music floats through the air, and the lights from the bars flicker like fireflies against the horizon. There's no pretense here, no staged tourism, just people enjoying life the way it's meant to be enjoyed. You can sit with a drink, listen to the waves, and feel as if you've stepped into a version of the Caribbean that time forgot to change. Then there's Nevis, the smaller of the two islands, often described as Street Kitts' peaceful soul. Only a short ferry ride away, Nevis feels even slower, even more authentic. Its population barely reaches 12,000, and the island measures just 36 square miles, but what it lacks in size it makes up for in serenity. The capital, Charlestown, is charming and compact, with Georgian-style buildings that have stood for centuries and quiet streets where locals greet you with genuine warmth. Nevis is also the birthplace of Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers of the United States, and his childhood home still stands as a museum. But what truly defines Nevis Isn't history? It's the way it makes you feel. With coconut trees lining the shore, goats wandering freely along the roads, and beaches like Piney's Beach stretching into infinity, Nevis reminds you that luxury can exist in silence, and beauty doesn't need noise. Life here follows the rhythm of nature. The mornings start with the sound of roosters and the ocean breeze whispering through banana leaves, and evenings end with sunsets that paint the sky in impossible shades of gold and violet. People don't rush, they move with purpose but also with peace. Fishermen pull their boats onto the sand after a day at sea, farmers tend to their crops of sweet potatoes and yams, and families gather on verandas to talk, laugh, and share stories. The culture blends African heritage with European influence and Caribbean creativity, forming a unique identity expressed in everything from food to festivals. The Street Kids Music Festival, for example, draws artists from around the world, yet it remains rooted in local pride, celebrating reggae, calypso, and soca alongside global sounds. It's a reminder that even the smallest nations can host the biggest celebrations of life. Food here isn't just about taste, it's about memory. Dishes like goat water stew, coconut dumplings, and saltfish with Johnny cakes tell stories of generations. Every bite carries the essence of survival, adaptation, and joy. On weekends, local markets overflow with color, papayas, plantains, fresh fish, and the laughter of vendors calling out deals. There's something deeply human about how people connect through food here. They cook slowly, serve generously, and eat together. You realize quickly that Street Kids and Nevis doesn't try to impress visitors with grand shows, it invites them into its rhythm, its flavor, its heart. Economically, the islands have made impressive progress for their size. Once dependent on sugarcane plantations, St. Kitts and Nevis transitioned away from agriculture in the early 2000s and reinvented itself through tourism, education, and offshore services. The country's citizenship-by-investment program became one of the most respected in the world, helping fund infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Yet, even with development, the islands have resisted the temptation to overbuild or lose their natural charm. Luxury hotels like the Park Hyatt and Four Seasons coexist with small, family-run guest houses and eco-lodges that protect the environment and support local communities. It's a balance few destinations manage to achieve, progress without losing authenticity. The spirit of independence runs deep here. For a nation so small, St. Kitts and Nevis has managed to maintain political stability, low crime rates, and a strong sense of national unity. Its flag, with green for fertile land, red for struggle, black for heritage, and two white stars representing hope and freedom for both islands, flies proudly across schools and government buildings. Education is highly valued, literacy rates are among the highest in the region, and students often go abroad for studies but return with new ideas to uplift their homeland. It's not perfection, but it's progress, steady, humble, and honest. Tourism is the lifeblood of the islands, but it's practiced responsibly. Cruise ships dock in Bassettere's port, spilling curious travelers who often find themselves staying longer than they planned. Adventure seekers hike through rainforest trails, snorkel along coral reefs, or zipline across valleys. History lovers explore Brimstone Hill Fortress, a UNESCO World Heritage Site built by African slaves and British soldiers centuries ago, standing today as one of the best preserved fortifications in the Caribbean. From its ramparts, you can see nearly every angle of the island and understand why the locals often say that from here, you can see not just the Caribbean Sea, but the story of resilience itself. There's a magic to how the people interact with their land. Farmers use volcanic soil that's so rich it produces fruits of unusual sweetness, and fishermen talk about the sea as if it were an old friend. The government has encouraged sustainable practices, promoting renewable energy and conservation, ensuring that future generations inherit not just a nation, but a paradise worth protecting. It's this consciousness, this respect for what they have, that gives Street Kids and Nevis its lasting charm. Evenings in St. Kitts and Nevis feel like a slow song you never want to end. As the sun sinks behind the mountains, the light turns golden, washing over the sea and making every wave shimmer like molten glass. Locals begin to gather along the waterfront. Some sit with friends and talk about the day. Others stroll the beach as children chase each other in the fading glow. There's no rush here, no pressure to fill silence with noise. The Caribbean rhythm, both literal and emotional, moves through the air like a heartbeat you can feel but never quite predict. It's not uncommon to hear music drifting from small bars or open verandas, soft reggae, a bit of calypso, the occasional steel pan melody carried by the wind. There's something honest about how the islands move into night. They don't try to entertain you, they invite you to slow down, breathe, and simply be. For travelers, it's easy to see why so many people fall in love with this place and never truly leave it behind. Tourism isn't just an industry here, it's a shared experience between visitor and host, built on warmth rather than formality. The taxi drivers aren't hustlers, they're storytellers. The vendors at the market don't pressure you to buy, they offer fruit with the same pride they would share with a friend. And while the resorts are luxurious, some of the most unforgettable moments happen far from them, in a quiet fishing village where a local teaches you to clean a fresh catch, or on a hilltop where the only sound is the ocean miles below. This is where Street Kits and Nevis reveals its true strength, not in its size or its statistics, but in the way it makes you feel connected to something genuine. The more you explore, the more you realize how deeply history is woven into daily life. The old sugar plantations, once symbols of colonial power, now stand as echoes of a painful past that the islands have learned to transform into resilience. Some have been turned into museums, others into inns surrounded by lush gardens. Wingfield Estate, for example, is one of the oldest plantations in the Caribbean, and today its ruins stand beneath the canopy of rainforest, a quiet monument to both suffering and survival. Walking through its arches and moss-covered stones, you feel the weight of what was, but you also see the beauty of what is, the strength of a people who refuse to let their story end in chains. Every nation carries its scars, but here, they've been turned into lessons and, somehow, into peace. Nature, too, has its way of telling stories. Take a boat ride around the islands, and you'll see cliffs that plunge straight into the sea, coral reefs teeming with life, and stretches of coastline untouched by development. Dolphins sometimes swim alongside the boats, playful and free, as if escorting you through their world. In the shallows near Nevis, you can snorkel above coral gardens where every color seems more vivid than the last, and the water clarity feels unreal. Above you, pelicans dive gracefully into the waves, while small fishing boats drift lazily in the distance. There's no rush to see everything here because every corner holds something worth slowing down for. But perhaps what stands out most is the nation's remarkable balance between tradition and progress. Despite its small population and limited land area, St. Kitts and Nevis has built one of the region's most stable economies and continues to push for innovation. The islands are moving toward renewable energy independence, with plans to harness geothermal power from Nevis volcanic activity. It's not a country chasing the modern world, it's one redefining what modern means in a Caribbean context. The government focuses on education, health, and sustainability rather than size or status. You can feel that sense of purpose in the way locals talk about their home. They're not just proud of their beauty, they're proud of their vision. Driving across Street Kitts, you'll pass sugarcane fields now overgrown with wild grass, yet still whispering memories of centuries gone by. Then suddenly, the view opens up to the sea, and the Atlantic meets the Caribbean in a breathtaking collision of blues at the island's southeastern peninsula. It's one of the few places in the world where you can stand on a narrow strip of land and watch two oceans meet. At the very tip, the island of Nevis sits quietly in the distance, its mountain rising like a green pyramid from the sea. This view alone feels like a postcard, yet it's real, and it's free for anyone to experience. The peninsula is home to new developments, but even with luxury resorts nearby, nature still dominates. It's a reminder that progress doesn't always have to erase paradise, it can exist within it. In Nevis, life moves to an even slower rhythm. Locals call it Nevis nice, and once you've spent a few hours there, you understand exactly what they mean. There are no traffic lights on the entire island, no high-rise buildings, and very few crowds. You might see more donkeys than cars some days, and yet that simplicity feels like luxury in its purest form. The beaches, like Uli and Lovers Beach, are nearly empty even during peak season. The water is calm, the air pure, and the sense of peace almost overwhelming. The island's small size makes it easy to explore, drive in a full circle around it in under an hour, but every stop feels like a chapter in a story you don't want to rush through.